Hi, Dr. Pollux. This is Ashley Barnes, and I'm going to discuss today the IEP process, some of the components that build the IEP, and how we get students and parents involved in collaborating and participating in that IEP. I'd like to start with the referral process. Parents can request a referral on their own if they have any concerns or questions. They can say, hey, I think something's going on, and I would like to have my son tested. As a general ed teacher, hypothetically, if I were one, what I would do is if I had a student in my classroom and I saw that they were struggling to keep up with content and they weren't, on the same level as their peers, I would start collecting some data and making some observations. And then at that point, I would reach out to the parent and say, hey, I have your student in my class and he has these great areas of strengths. He does great at A, B, and C, but I've noticed that he's really struggling with this. And I've tried a couple of different approaches, but he just doesn't seem to be getting it. How would you feel about sending him out to get an assessment so we can determine what's really going on? At that point, if the parent were to agree, it would go to an evaluation with the school psychologist. And the school psychologist would come in and do some assessment and testing. Now, the only way a student can be eligible for an IEP is if they have one of the 13 disabilities listed under IDEA. And if you can prove that it's the disability that's giving them problems in the general education classroom. It's what's making it hard for them to learn. It's what's making the environment too difficult for them to learn in. So some of those things. If the student were to qualify, the psychologist assessment and testing, my notes and observations, my data, all those things would become the foundation of the IEP, and they would be included in the IEP. So it would be like our observations of, where the student is at right now, how they're doing academically and functionally, how their disability is affecting their involvement in the classroom and learning with their peers. And then we would include some academic and functional goals. We would list how they would be measured, and we would have a periodic progress report, like saying when those reports would be available. So they would be available quarterly, 4 times a year, and we would send those out to parents and to everybody on the IEP team so that we can assess how it's going. Is he getting closer to meeting those goals? Is what we're doing working? What do we need to change? What do we need to talk about? The IEP would also include a statement of modifications or supports, and how we are going to have that student make progress in the general education classroom, and the things that we're going to do to have that student participate in extracurricular, non-extracurricular activities, and to be educated and participate with other students without disabilities. So we want them to be with their peers, their friends, in the general education classroom, and how we're going to integrate that and make that still happen. You don't want to just pull a child straight out of their environment and say, you're not doing great at school. That would be terrible. They would feel horrible. There would also be an explanation of extent to any so if a child cannot participate with non-disabled children in the regular classroom, let's say due to behaviors, we would have an explanation as to why. If I had a student, that was kicking and biting and he was just getting overly stimulated in that environment and just really couldn't handle it, and it was just too much for him, we would say, we're pulling them out. He's not having, contact with these peers, and this is why. We would also have a statement of any individual accommodations that are necessary to measure the academic achievement and functional performance of the child. Another thing the IEP includes is the projected date for the beginning of services and modifications, the frequency and location and duration of those services as well. Is it in the general education classroom? Is it in a special education classroom? How long are they going to last for? If a speech therapist is coming in, if they're going to pull them out to work, how long are they working with them for? So those are some of the things that are in the IEP. Another thing I would like to talk about is parent involvement and student involvement. It is very important that parents collaborate and work together with teachers in the IEP process, because a parent knows their child best, and they will have all kinds of information on what works best for their child, medical history that may, be important to their possible disability, whether it's been identified or not, what environment works best for their child, just all this different information that we need. And we need the parents to be involved because when they are invested and they buy in, it's a better process. It's more effective. So we really want to encourage parents to come to the meetings. We want to have their support. We need their permission to even move forward. We want the information that they have. We want them to share in the responsibility of getting all the supports their child needs. And we want them to feel heard and a valued part of the team. And we can do that by, reaching out to them, sharing information with them, updating them, talking very highly of their child, saying, yeah, they're struggling in reading right now, but they're great at math, and that's awesome. And, just be very positive and encouraging. We also want the student to be involved. We want them to be invested in buy-in. We want them to be able to say, hey, I know this is a subject that I don't like because it feels hard for me, and I'd like to do better at it, and this is how I think I could do better. Or, yes, I will take accountability and I will help, measure my goals. I'll complete a checklist every day that shows if I met my goal or not, to help keep data. Because if they're invested, if they're buying in, if they have accountability, they're more likely to meet those goals. Research shows that. So it's just very important. I work with students who are diagnosed with autism and they are nonverbal. And even with nonverbal students, they can help build their goals. They can help create an assessment. It might just be a crayon circling a smiley face or a frowny face if they felt they, did a good job, or if they felt they understood. It might just be some yes and no cards saying, do you agree with this goal? Yes or no. But they can still take part in that process. We want students to sign that IEP. We want them to feel like it's their IEP, it's their team. We're all working together for them, and they're the superstar in this show. So that's all I have for today, and I hope that was helpful. And I'm sorry I said so much. I'm very nervous and I have no idea why. And have a great night. Thank you.